lot of nuts!
What's going on, hyenas? Recently I bumped into a bit of a conversation that I've seen bubbling up over YouTube videos, thumbnails and titles specifically, the topics of which these YouTube videos cover, video essays specifically. There seems to be a level of fatigue that people have bumped into to where they're starting to get sick of, or at least in my opinion, they're starting to get sick of watching video essays or video game analyses or seeing the same thumbnails posted over and over again by people, to the point where I'm seeing a lot of people online start to spread a sense of negativity. They seem to hate the idea of anybody else making a video talking about this or that. And it's, you know, people dislike YouTube videos, people dislike video games or anime discussion or whatever it is on the platform, but something about the way that people are getting more specific about the aspects that they dislike about YouTube videos has really got me starting to wonder what exactly is going on over there. I first saw this conversation start to bubble up back in March, apparently, where this individual posted this thumbnail by Splotch, titled, "Are Minecraft Updates Getting Worse?" And this thumbnail title combination was screen grabbed and then posted on the Twitter with the comment, "No hate to this guy in particular, but we need to eradicate this green screen plus holding microphone genre of YouTubers, and soon." And I noticed that this was very much a up-and-coming genre of YouTube video where a lot of people make videos in front of green screens where they can basically stand in front of a PowerPoint presentation while the slides scroll by while they talk about what they're talking about. But this aspect of holding the microphone very much became a call to it's a personality-driven thing. This isn't supposed to be some interesting, intellectually driven think piece with tons of research and like trying to make a thesis and a conclusion based on facts and evidence. When you're holding any sort of microphone in front of your mouth while talking in front of a green screen, a la TikTok videos, it's very much trying to evoke the notion that, hey, I'm just giving my opinion here. I'm just a cool guy like you guys. I'm just making a video talking about my silly little thoughts. And at some point, with that becoming more and more popular, people started to incorporate that as a part of their thumbnail, not because they think me holding a Shure SM7B looks good, because, you know, you're not really supposed to be holding these types of microphones. They're supposed to be mounted to your desk, but audio nerd engineering stuff aside, the reason they put it in the thumbnail is for that same purpose, to let you know as you're looking at this video, before deciding if you want to click on whether or not Minecraft updates are getting worse, that you know right away that this is just going to be a guy speaking out his thoughts and opinions about something, as opposed to an actual data-driven analysis of whether or not the updates for Minecraft have gotten worse patch by patch. It's a call to, hey man, this is just going to be a Discord call, a casual little chat between us, and they let you know all of that before you even click on the video, simply by holding that microphone and letting you know, hey, this is going to be that kind of video. If I'm not mistaken, the first time that I saw anybody holding up a lapel microphone in this fashion was YouTuber Joanna Ceddia, who garnered a lot of attention when she started uploading videos, because if I'm not mistaken, she was one of the fastest growing YouTubers of her era. She reached like 1 million subscribers within a first couple of videos, and she was very much people described her as the next Emma Chamberlain. She was a young, I don't know if she lived in California, but like a creative vlogging style young woman, much along the lines of Emma Chamberlain. And her videos got a ton of views because people were interested in her quirky personality, and was also incredibly talented as an artist, if I'm not mistaken, before ultimately leaving the internet due to health concerns, if I remember correctly. But she always did this little bit where she had a tiny little, what she called a dollar store microphone. The audio quality of it wasn't great, but because she shot all of her videos on her phone, it made it so that she could keep her phone a little farther away, talk to the microphone, and then her audio sound wouldn't sound like she was across the room. Somewhere along the line, somewhere in this pipeline of Joanna Ceddia has gotten extremely popular on YouTube. Millions and millions of followers, subscribers, views, and nobody knows exactly why, resulted into people doing what they always do when it comes to people like Janelle Aliana, Emma Chamberlain, Joanna Ceddia, and any other young vlogger you can think of, which is how can we deconstruct what part of these videos are working so that we can incorporate that into our own YouTube videos to also get millions and millions of views? Do we need a personality-driven spokesperson? Do we need to have a cute, whimsical vlog? Is it the background music? Is it the zooms on Emma Chamberlain's face? All of these would have varying repercussions on videos that would come out after these people got very popular, as everybody else scrounged around to try to figure out what part of the formula they got right so that they could reproduce it. And in that, somebody at some point decided, you know what it is with Joanna Ceddia, why she's got 1 million subscribers, seemingly just hanging out in her room and making silly videos? It must be the tiny microphone. And so lots of people started to use tiny microphones. Originally, it was the same dollar store microphone, plug it into the earphone jack of your iPhone and then talk into it while holding it up to your mouth. But as time went on, people started to realize that the audio quality of that sucked. And again, this is just vibes. I haven't done any research here. Maybe I'll hold my microphone in the thumbnail so that you guys know that. People started to realize that they can use higher quality microphones. What people usually do when they're talking to a camera that's far away from them is a lavalier microphone, one that is attached to your neck or near your lapel area. That's why I'd say lapellier microphone. But then they started using wireless lav microphones that don't need to be plugged into anything, but yet they still continued to hold the receiver up to their mouth in order to continue to evoke what they thought was the important part keeping people watching, which is, I am holding a small microphone, please give me millions of views. So Joanna Ceddia and any other vlogger in her era who was recording on their phone had an issue where it sounded like they were really far away when their phone was zoomed out a lot. So they went and got themselves a cheap lavalier microphone whose wire is only 6 feet long, and so they end up having to hold this thing while it's plugged into their phone so that their voice sounds right. That makes sense. But then people started to use these wireless Rode microphones that allow you to be as far away as you want to without having to hold it. But I guess nobody actually learned how to use these things properly, and so instead of clipping this thing to their shirt like they should, they continued to just hold it as if it was a lavalier microphone, even though this thing is wireless. One would imagine that you would just use a stage microphone, a condenser, one of these things that is designed to get rid of any of the noise from handling a microphone so that you're always going to get clear audio out of it. But these things are a little bit tough for you to plug into a smartphone, so this never really ended up being the case. And now, seemingly because the only thing anybody knows about microphone placement is that you should be holding it up to your mouth, people are taking full-on Shure SM7Bs, desktop-mounted microphones, things that were never designed to be held, don't have any sort of noise reduction to compensate for it, aren't even on the sorts of shock mounts that would prevent your hands touching it from making interference. But that's not what it's about. Anybody who knows anything about audio engineering or has even used a microphone in their life would tell you that there's some level of misuse being done here if the goal was to get the best audio out of your microphone. But that's not the goal. The goal is to hold a microphone up to your mouth so that you can look like a TikToker, so that you can look like a vlogger, a person who has a personality-driven online presence. I am not the BBC. This is not a documentary. I'm just a dude working off of vibes, talking about stuff that I find interesting for my stupid little videos on the internet, and you can tell that because I'm holding my microphone up to my mouth. Sumito, does this even work? I mean, if it's a psychological factor, don't these people need data behind it before they decide to do any of this stuff? No. There's very little data behind this sort of stuff. There have been a few people that have made videos analyzing this holding a lapel microphone up to your mouth phenomena that seems to have taken over content creation on TikTok and on YouTube. But the reality is, you can't even really blame the people who are doing this sort of thing. At the end of the day, they have to work off of what they think is going to be important to how their video ends up looking. And if they think that holding a lapel microphone or whatever microphone up to their mouth is important to the sort of video that they're making, they're just going to operate off of those vibes. Because on YouTube, when you're a content creator, all you really get are vibes. Even if you have a video that goes on to get 1 million views, the only thing you've learned is that that video got 1 million views. It gives you very little information about what to do about the next video. Sure, it could be on the same topic. You could record it the same way, set up the lights in the same manner, maybe wear a similar shirt, but At the end of the day, if that second video then gets 0 views, you're back to square one, and there's very little you can learn about that first video. So what people do is just keep making that first video. What worked in that first video? The topic, the thumbnail, the title, me holding a microphone? Fuck it. Let's just do all of those things, cover all of our bases, and just hope to the algorithm gods that this makes a difference. This vibes-based approach to how you make your YouTube titles, thumbnails, and to an extension, the entirety of the video, is sort of the entire crux of this fatigue that I think people are feeling through YouTube. Another one of the thumbnails that I see pop up in these hate discussions on Twitter is this one, where this Twitter user states, "This is the worst thumbnail I've ever seen," which is a very common thumbnail you will see all across YouTube, which is YouTuber in the middle of the frame, and then around them is the topic of the video that they're talking about, with some label of text across underneath their face. In this case, it's "Remember Your Roots, White Boy," with the video title being "Why White Boys Are Embracing Their Roots." This, in my opinion, is also indicative of basically the same idea of YouTubers having to operate off of the vibes of what they think is working on YouTube and the way that that ends up shaping the way that they make their videos, their thumbnails, and their titles. Why White Boys Are Embracing Their Roots could have been a completely different title thumbnail combination. This could have been an example of the Vans Warped Tour movie poster just being the thumbnail. It could have been titled something like "Punk Rock is Back," or "The 2020s is going to be like the 2000s," or whatever it could have been. But the reason that this is set up in this way is to let you know that this video is a video essay. This is going to be some sort of well-researched with a thesis and a conclusion with data points lying behind it to try to push the idea of whatever the title of the video is. In this video, I have an idea that white boys are embracing their roots, and I'm going to show you some examples of why I think such. All of that is evoked by YouTuber in the middle, stuff behind them. In a broader sense, this is generally used by people who are making video essays about social issues. When we're talking about racism, classism, misogyny, typically in the pieces of media, music, video games, anime, or what have you, they will do this sort of thing where I, for some reason, the focal point of the thumbnail, in the thumbnail, am going to tell you why X thing is bad. I found this Wojak-esque parody of such thumbnails. Clearly somebody was frustrated enough with how often and frequently they have been seeing these thumbnails that they wanted to make a thumbnail jack out of it. It is "Girl in the Middle with Blush," the words "problematic" and "misogyny." In gray, I am the focal point of the thumbnail despite not being related to the subject matter of the video because I am pretty. Titled "The Self-Fetishization of the Male Gaze and the Pursuit and Appeal of It by Midwit Attractive Female." Uploaded 4 hours ago to damn near 1 million views. Now, I want to attribute this text over YouTuber in the middle of thumbnail with the topic of the video visually presented behind them in the thumbnail. I want to attribute this to Curtis Connor. I'm not 100% sure if he's the first person to do this style, but I do remember seeing an interview with the guy who makes his thumbnails, basically saying that him and Curtis worked together to develop this style of thumbnail. So at the very least, he was one of the first people to put thought into exactly how this was going to go. But to say that the parodies that are being made of this sort of style of video is completely outlandish isn't, I mean, listen, it comes from a repeated influx of these videos being made that some people, if the only thing you did was take a look at the videos, could understandably be met with, wow, how many of these things are there? Here's Izzy's with cozy games and misogyny in that thumbnail style. Here's YouTuber, "Is the Chikorita hate rooted in misogyny?" Here's another one with misogyny in the manga community. It seems as though if at any point you were going to make a video about how popular thing is rooted in racism, misogyny, classism, if the thing that you enjoy, you're only enjoying because some part of you hates another human being internally, then let me explain to you why that's bad by putting myself in the thumbnail with some text over my neck and some images behind me. Why is everybody using the same thumbnail style? I mean, these are completely different YouTubers that are arguably talking about slightly different topics. At least the dude making the video about how white boys are returning to their roots doesn't seem to be rooted in misogyny, and yet even that guy is still making videos in this style. Curtis Connor, I don't believe, makes every video talking about misogyny, and he's one of the people who's been making this thumbnail style for the better part of like 7 years. It's vibes. It's always been vibes. It's not like YouTubers understand necessarily that this is what they're evoking when they make that style of thumbnail. They just see popular videos have the YouTuber in the middle with the stuff behind them. They think it looks aesthetically. I've used this exact style of thumbnail when talking. I forget what video it was. It was probably the Chainsaw Man video, maybe. Lots of people use this style of thumbnail simply because they think it's popular. And they see YouTubers that they watch, naturally YouTubers who probably make similar content to the stuff that they make, and they decide, well, if I'm going to make a thumbnail, the greatest form of flattery is imitation. Let me make it in the same way that they do. Perhaps I'll garner some of the same viewership. It's not like YouTube gives you any guidelines on what works and what doesn't. You got to figure that out for yourself. So naturally, everybody is going to start using the same sorts of thumbnail styles because that sort of thumbnail style is what gets people watching. Why is it that if the thumbnail style that gets the most people to click and watch a video, in turn turning more people into making that style of thumbnail, ended up the butt of the joke? How is it that so many people have such a visceral reaction, hate this style of thumbnail? Compare women who are making videos talking about social issues in video games and media to OnlyFans whores because they're so upset at the style of thumbnail that they chose to use. This is the thing that's popular. This is what gets people to click. Why would it also be the thing that's making everybody mad? The frustrating thing is that making a quality video, something that has time, effort, and thought put into it, that is worth watching for people, is completely hidden behind the curtain of the thumbnail. You need to click on a thumbnail, see it, and in a split second decide, yeah, that looks interesting enough for me to read the title. Yeah, that title looks interesting enough for me to click on this video before any of the quality of the video matters whatsoever. So, once you've made a video that you put a lot of time and effort into it, are you going to make a wholly original thumbnail that may or may not get clicks, or are you going to use the thing that you know is going to get people to click on your video, which you already have established is worth making, worth watching, worth their time? You just got to get over that speed bump of, I got to get these guys to click on it. This culminates in the final one of these hate comments that I've seen on Twitter, which is YouTuber Bizly channel. Bizly is somebody whose career I've followed for quite a while simply because I talked to him once in a Discord call. And he originally was a part of the Just Roll With It podcast and made a bunch of sort of whatever videos on his main channel. And then launched a new channel titled Bizly Channel, where he decided he was going to put more effort into being a YouTuber versus just being a guest on a D&D podcast, I suppose. And the interesting, first of all, this person posted this thumbnail and stated, I feel a visceral hatred for these thumbnails. And I don't know exactly what it is he's referring to, if it's just guy in costume in front of thing that he's watching, if he doesn't like long video game analyses, if he's sick of people trying to talk about a video game while wearing a costume, which between Super Eye Patch Wolf, Pyrocynical, every video that Bizly's done, sure, quite a few people do that shtick to try to make the quality of their video seem higher than it is. But the funny thing about Bizly is that he makes very good YouTube videos. Not only does he just put on a costume while talking about it, but he uses the green screen and the camera tricks to really sort of incorporate himself into the scenes of the video games. He does more than what most people might interpret out of just him putting on a costume talking about a video game. But because you can't tell any of that until you actually click the video, it ends up hurting him just a tiny bit because the video is much higher quality than I put on a costume to talk about video game. It's much better than most of those videos, but because that's the thumbnail style that most people are used to and what ends up getting the most clicks, he has to sort of settle for doing that style of thumbnail because that's the thing that's going to get people to watch his videos. Bizly is a very interesting example of this because he's been making quite a few of these videos over the last few years, and you can actually see the progression of the styles of thumbnails that he used. He didn't just start doing this off the bat, copying somebody else. This highlighted by Blurbs TV on Twitter here, you can see he did the style where he put a bunch of video game characters behind him with text in front of him, and that only got 400,000 views from 2 years ago. He tried using the tier list ladder on the side. He tried doing one where he wasn't facing the camera. He tried doing one where he looks like he's in the video game with that Minecraft one. And whether it's because he's lacking a costume, or because he's not looking at the camera, or because he's not pointing at the thing that he's doing, those videos underperformed. And the second that he starts doing that pose of pointing at the thumbnail while sitting off to the side of it, 5 million views, 1.5 million, 2.5 million views. This dude has iterated on all these styles, has found something that has worked, and now is just a slave to using that style of thumbnail. What's he gonna do? Put the exact same amount of effort into making the video and use a thumbnail that's gonna relegate it to the 300,000 view jail? Or is he gonna make a slightly different PNG that ultimately doesn't matter to 99% of the work that went into making the video and get fucking 5 times the views? What do you think he's gonna do? The interesting thing about this is that the amount of people that are talking about their hatred for these repetitive feeling thumbnails and titles, all these videos that feel the same because you're judging it as such from just a surface level glance, obviously aren't watching these videos. If you're somebody who is into watching videos, analyzing social issues and misogyny in popular media, you're happy to see as many of these as you can be. And if you don't watch a particular YouTuber, being able to see their thumbnail and immediately go, oh, this is the type of video I'm about to click on, goes a long way as to whether or not somebody wants to spend 45 minutes listening to somebody that they have maybe never watched a video from before. In the situation with Bizly, he makes very good videos. Nobody is arguing that. But because he makes his thumbnails in a style that, you know, benefit to him, it's not like he has another choice. Those are the thumbnails that get clicks. It ends up looking like a low effort, you know, to these people, a low effort video, and then gets shoved into a folder of other low effort videos because they're never going to click and end up watching these videos anyway, so they're never going to learn differently. I think this is one of the biggest traps that a YouTuber can fall into, is listening to your YouTube comments, the feedbacks that you get from Patreon or from Twitter or wherever. It's not just Twitter. It's quite literally, there is something about the level of emotion a viewer needs to have when watching your video to push them to the point of writing a comment or discussing a Reddit thread or making a Twitter post. It needs to reach a certain point before they even care enough to say something about your title, your thumbnail, or your video. And 98 times out of 100, it's probably not because they loved your video so much that they had to leave a comment saying how great it is. And even if it is, once you make 2 or 3 videos, that feeling starts to become normalized. The third best video you've ever made, you know, they're going to keep making those videos. That commenter probably isn't going to comment every single video, hey, this was great. However, somebody who dislikes the style of thumbnail, the repetitiveness of the tone of your voice, how many times you use a certain word, or how many times you make videos about or not about whatever they subscribe for, people who are more hateful or disliking of your content are much more likely to engage in threads on Reddit, leave comments negatively, or make posts like the ones that we've seen in this video on Twitter. They're not entirely wrong either. Obviously, I feel the same fatigue that most of these videos, most of these posts that we've seen on Twitter share. I am very sick of seeing videos that have guy holding microphone talking about Pokemon for 45 minutes. I am sick of seeing catching every Pokemon in one Nuzlocke, speedrunning so-and-so video game. If I was gonna make a hate post on Twitter, it would be, I played video game and then had an editor cut it up to look like a YouTube video challenge. That's my least favorite. Just go stream the stupid video game. Why do you need to double dip and make a video? Is the thousands of dollars in donations not enough? You also had to make a YouTube video about it, completely nullifying me watching it live because now there's a way better condensed version over on YouTube that has none of the emotion of watching you for 6 hours? My point is, both of these people have a level of validity, whether it be the YouTubers continuing to choose to use these titles and thumbnails, or the people who are feeling fatigue from the fact that they see so many of them because it's the only thing that YouTube promotes. But one of the biggest issues that a YouTuber can have is listening to the people who are saying that they dislike this sort of thing. The smart thing to do when you've come up with the formula to where your video can get 1 million views is to shut up and keep making videos that get millions of views. The thousands of dollars in your bank account should speak much, much louder to how much people care to click and watch your videos than the people who are getting sick of you feeling like every other YouTuber. Because the reality is that they're saying that you feel like every other successful YouTuber, every other big YouTuber, if you were to take one of these people that were sharing their dismay at the repetitiveness of these thumbnails and ask them to name what a small YouTuber thumbnail looks like, they wouldn't even be able to give you an example. It's not like they're clicking on thumbnails that they feel like have better art, this or that. They don't even see those thumbnails. They literally just skip over it with their eyes because it doesn't have bright color, guy with microphone, green screen, text, the things that we know work. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of everybody kind of getting sick of the thing that works. It's the whole effect of a really good song hitting the radio. You could love a #1 Billboard 100 song, but once you've heard it 40 times every day of the week on your way to work, even the best song is going to start to feel a little bit, oh my God, this again? At the end of the day, the fault is on YouTube. And I do mean that sincerely. Now, I don't want to make it seem as though every person who makes a video essay with stuff behind them and text in front of them is making the best YouTube video in the world. I'm not saying that. But I'm also not saying that the people who are making drama videos with face and red text over to the side of it are necessarily the worst videos known to mankind. That's just sort of the box that those videos get put into because they're so identifiable simply by nothing more than their title and the thumbnail. And that is very much a result of the fact that YouTube is a platform that serves you titles and thumbnails. At the end of the day, you're the one that decides what video you end up watching for hours and hours at a time while you're doing work or sitting at your computer. But the title and thumbnail is just supposed to be a small advertisement for what that video is. And as a result, that becomes the game that everybody needs to play. In a perfect world, everybody would make thumbnails that are their own personality, that represent some level of artistic creativity, just like their video is, but in PNG form. But the reality is that that freedom amongst the creatives in YouTube and anywhere has very much been stripped away by the fact that the YouTube algorithm is only going to recommend videos that people click on. And yet again, people do not click on videos, they click on thumbnails. And so now that gets relegated to just, I'm going to give it to a thumbnail artist, somebody who understands how the machine of the algorithm works. They're going to use the right colors, they're going to put on the right text, they're going to edit my eyes to be perfectly white or whatever it is that they do to get people to click on the video, because that's the thing I actually give a shit about. Who cares how soulless the thumbnail ends up becoming? It's just there to serve a purpose, and obviously that sucks. What do you guys think my thumbnail should be? You guys have watched my videos for quite a few years, 8 years at this point, as I've transcended from making meme-centered videos to ones where I just kind of talk about whatever I think is interesting on the web. I've always kind of wondered what sort of thumbnails I should be making in order to resonate with enough people that I get 1 million people to watch this show. It's not exactly a video essay. I'm not talking about social issues. It's not exactly an analysis of video games where I can green screen myself in front of Metroid Prime or what have you. Perhaps it should just be a picture of my genitals. Let me know down in the comments. Right below the subscribe button if you want to catch more videos from me. Remember to leave a like. It means a ton. And I'll catch you guys in the next one, yeah? Spisu.